Me too. Okay, you guys, I'm really excited for this. I literally was just saying that before we came live. Um, because I have definition of anarchy here. Can you make sure that you put your channel in the chat? And we're going to have a discussion I've actually never had, which is surrounding what anarchy is and is it even something that's possible? I say no, but I'm open to hearing the other side. So why don't you kick it off? Like, I think there will always be a hierarchy. I don't think that you can get away from that. I think people naturally order themselves in a hierarchy. There's always an exchange of power. And so I just think it would not work for many reasons, but I'll get to my reasons as you try to explain to me why it is you think people don't require leadership, or is that even what anarchy means?
No, anarchy does not mean that. Um, Anarchy, if you look at the etymological meaning of the word, not the Merriam-Webster definition, right? But the actual etymological breakdown, it means without authority, right? So that's what it means, or without rulers, as that's what authority meant, in those days when the word was created. And so that's basically what it is. Is basically no rulers. So, but it doesn't preclude or it doesn't exclude leadership or anything like that. But my definition of leadership is different from other people's. So when you get into all those different types of ideals, then you start to really break it down and peel away the layers. You know what I mean?
Okay, so then I'm going to need you to define it then.
Leadership. Okay.
Yes.
So someone who is a leader.
Because first of all, what if somebody doesn't want a leader? Do you know
What
what
if
I'm saying?
somebody
What
doesn't
if
want a
somebody's
leader?
not, yeah, what
That
if they're not down with literally anybody telling them what to do? What do you do with that in a society where there's anarchy?
that's an anarchist. That's a pure anarchist.
Okay, but what if they are problematic?
If they're problematic, see, that's where you get into the non-aggression principle, right? That's where the non-aggression principle comes in. So if you're someone who doesn't want to follow the rules, right? Someone who doesn't want to, they don't want a leader, right? They don't want guidance, which is what I think leaders provide. I think leaders provide guidance, not rules. But someone who doesn't, like someone who goes around hurting other people, harming other people, that's where you have to, that's a crime, right? So then you have to pay for that crime. And that's
Who
decided
says it's
by
a
the people.
crime when there are no rules? Because there's no true leaders and nobody really has to follow anybody. So then who determines what is a crime? This is
Mhm.
what I mean by ultimately there has to be order because you can't have a crime without somebody determining that that is a crime, which means
Well,
that's an imposition by its very nature
that
on you making free choice.
okay. So anarchy does not mean not no order. It doesn't mean no structure. It doesn't mean no order. So you know, and most anybody knows that there are certain crimes that are true crimes, and then there are things that people call crimes that aren't really crimes. In order to commit a crime, you have to leave a victim. If there's no victim, there's no crime. You understand what I'm saying? For instance, someone, it's against the law, right? It's against man-made laws in certain states, certain cities, to use drugs, right? To consume drugs, to own and possess and consume drugs. But if you're using those drugs for yourself, then you're not committing a crime. You're just using the drug. That's what you want to do. Now, when you go through changes and you hurt other people to get drugs and obtain drugs, and if you let those drugs lead you to harming somebody else, that's when you're committing a crime. But
Oh,
go ahead.
okay, so, but who determines that? That's what I'm
Who
saying. Like,
determines that?
if there is no leader and nobody has to acquiesce to anybody else's authority, you're saying that that ought to be the rule. But I might feel that there are no rules.
Oh,
I don't care if there's a victim or not.
that's
I'm
not
not
anarchy.
going to be imposed upon.
That's not anarchy.
But then who gets to make that determination that it's not anarchy?
It's the natural laws, right? If okay,
But do
this
you
is
see where
natural
I'm
law.
going with this? At some point, there's
Yeah,
got
where you
to
going?
be, you know what I mean? Because I could easily argue that, like, who are you to tell me? I don't care what anybody ever said anarchy was. I'm saying I want no leadership and authority. I don't want you bothering me at all. Just leave me
Okay,
alone.
then okay.
And
So
if
as
you're
long as you're
leaving
not
me alone,
leave you alone, right? You want me to leave you alone? Okay, well you
leave
best
me alone to do
right.
whatever I want to do.
Okay, so then you better leave me alone. You see what I'm saying? If you want me to leave you alone, then you better leave everybody else alone.
And then if I don't leave you alone,
Then,
then if your strength can outmatch mine, you can enforce your
then
rules.
yeah,
But if
because
my
guess what?
strength outmatches yours, your rules don't matter.
Yeah, it sure don't. It sure don't.
And this is why I don't think anarchy will work. It is a society where people who are not capable of the
Mhm.
highest acts of aggression cannot survive. They will end up becoming meat for everybody. Now, most people aren't going to want to live in a society like that. They're not going to want to live in a society where it's not the most intelligent person or the person who is the most humane, but it's the person that is the most brutal. I would argue we're currently living in that society where the people who are the most brutal have determined the order of the society
Whoa, whoa,
by
whoa.
pure brute force.
Wait, you're saying that we live in an anarchy society right now?
What I'm saying is this: if I am an anarchist
Mm-hmm.
and the way that, let's say, I absolutely refuse to agree to any of the terms that you've laid forth, if
Mm-hmm.
I have the ability to do enough violence to you and whoever agrees with you, then whatever I say goes.
No, that's not how it
How
works.
not? How would you stop me? Because we have no
Wait, hold on.
organization of any kind.
Okay, so you're asking me a question, right?
Yeah.
You're asking me. You're telling me that someone who doesn't want to, they don't want to live by the rules of society. Okay, they want to be removed from any expectation of following any guidance or any whatever it may be. But you're
Yeah.
not talking about an anarchist when you say that they're going to be violent and commit acts to harm other people. That's not an anarchist. See, you keep going back to this
But
anarchy doesn't
everybody,
work.
but
You're
everybody's not going to be peaceful. Even if you were able to achieve
no
anarchy, that's not how all the
that
individuals on Earth
that's
are going
not
to behave.
who said I wanted peace though. I didn't say I wanted peace. No, I'm not delusional enough to think that we're going to have everlasting peace in an anarchical society. I am not delusional enough to believe that.
So then, how
So
does that
you're
function?
excuse me.
How does that function when we know that some
How do,
people are wolves?
how's it function when we live in an authoritarian society and there are people that are wolves?
Because you have an authority that punishes those people. That's
Okay,
how.
you can still punish someone in a society where there's anarchy and you commit a crime against another person, you can be punished. I don't
If they
understand
have the power, if
where
they have
that
the power to punish you,
everybody has their own power and everybody.
if
So
they
this
can
this
over.
this thing this thing. Let me explain it.
Mhm.
If you live in a society, or let's say we live in a village, right, with other people. Okay, so this is where I said I am a pure anarchist, right? But I do not. I believe in a non-aggression principle. Anarchy has nothing. See, people think anarchy and they think, oh, it's just Molotov cocktails and riots and people kill. That's not what anarchy is. Just like they believe that uh, if they follow the Second Amendment, right, completely, and there was no infringements on the rights to keep and bear arms, everybody's going to be running around killing each other like the Wild Wild West. Those are misconceptions. You understand? Now, me as an anarchist, I might not want to participate in any society, but that doesn't mean I'm going to come into your community and start hurting people. That means that I might want to go off and do my own thing on my own land with my family and be left the hell alone as long as I don't bother you. That's what pure
But that's
anarchy
not
is.
what's gonna. But that's not what's gonna. We know that's not what's gonna
Okay,
happen.
and so it doesn't
Not
matter.
on not
It
on a planet with 3 billion
okay,
with
well,
almost five
I
billion
don't.
people.
It doesn't matter. Guess what? You think I'm gonna go out there and have dandelions running around? You think I'm gonna have a rack
Well,
full of
this
dandelions?
I guess this
Hold on,
is
hold
what
on,
I'm.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Go ahead.
You let me make my point. If you think that I'm just going to live off on my own. And it might not even be just me. It might be people that I can cooperate with a mutual level of respect. You understand what I'm saying? We don't
I
have to be
do.
ruling over each other, but we can cooperate. We can cooperate. We can trade. We can barter. And if shit hits the fan, we can come together, throw a lot together, and pick up. And you, I don't know what people think about anarchists. Like
Well,
we're in some. Hold on.
this is what I need to say this because when we talk about living in essentially what is a cooperative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everybody is autonomous. There have to still be rules to allow
What?
people to stay there or not, things that you don't want going on in the vicinity. We're
Okay.
not going to rape each other's kids. We're not going to,
Of
steal
course not.
each other's food. Right. So follow where I'm going with this. Now you've established rules, and then those rules need to be enforced. Right.
Dude.
So
You
now you're moving into organized society. Now, when a person comes, right, when
mm-hmm.
these people come to challenge your authority,
Challenge my authority.
they're also going to come in a group because a single anarchist is not going to survive for very long.
Okay.
So you almost have to structure yourself into ultimately a system that starts to basically look like a non-anarchist system, except for everybody is saying they don't have rule over each other, but in reality, you all are agreeing to
you
follow rules.
you have no idea how many times I've heard these arguments. This
Well,
is not nothing new.
I'm just
No,
stating the
but
obvious.
you have
You
you
can
know
still
you
call it
it's what
anarchy,
obvious
but
what's obvious. Hold on, because you're asking me a question. I'll get to talking, then you'll kind of cut me off and interject. These questions I've heard
okay.
a
So
million times.
how about we split it
You're
up
what
into
you're
3 minutes?
describing is not anarchy.
How
What you're
about we split it
describing.
into wait, how about we split it into 3 minutes each so then you don't feel I'm cutting you off. So it's 16, 17, so 19 after I'll speak.
Yeah, because you okay.
Go
So
ahead.
now you're talking about there. Listen, first we have to understand what anarchy is. You keep what you're describing is not anarchy. What you're describing is is just bedlam, right? You're talking about people running around raping kids, killing each other, and oh, we're aren't anarchists. We're supposed to turn a blind eye because we're not supposed to. No, that's not what anarchy is. Anarchy simply means no rulers, right? You can have a cooperative where people agree on a structure. It doesn't mean no structure. It does. So let's kill some things. When you talk about structure, you can have structure in a society where there's anarchy. You can have the golden. You can have rules in a society that everybody agrees to live by in a society where there's anarchy. I don't know where y'all get this twisted. You just see what I'm saying? So what you're describing, what you're telling me, what makes anarchy not work is not anarchy. All right. Now we have to get into deeper into what type of society this would be. This would be more specifically a voluntarist society where you live with, you decide what system or what set of rules or what culture you decide to participate in. And if you don't want to participate, then you can leave. You don't have to participate. You voluntarily participate. Like say, if we live in a village or in a community, it doesn't even have to be a village, and there's a school or a bridge or a road that needs to be built, then everybody agrees. Okay, they come to a common knowledge. Okay, we need this done, but you don't force everyone by taking money out of their paycheck every week and say, oh, we're using the money for this, but we don't know what you're using the money on. That's what happens in the government right now. They take, we're in trillions of dollars in debt, right? They take money out of our checks. They extort us, and we're still in debt. So they're spending money that we don't have, and they're taking our money, and we don't see any fruits of it. You understand what I'm saying? But in a voluntarist society, you don't have to do that. If your children don't go to a school, why am I paying taxes towards a school that my children don't go to? And that's basically what voluntarism is. Voluntarism is you can decide to live where there's a rule. You can decide to live where there's laws. That would be your choice. Because many people, trust me, I know myself, that many people will not want to live in an anarchist society. They want rulers. They want people to lead them. They want people to rule over them. They want dictators. As silly as that sounds, millions of people are going to want rulers and dictators. That's just the way it is. And so
Okay.
that would be their choice.
Okay. So, you brought up volunteerism,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Something people don't understand about our society already is we already live in an opt-in society. When you brought up, for example, having money taken out of your paycheck, that's because your children or your parents opted you in to receive a social security number, which is essentially binds you to having to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's an option. On the form, it says it's optional. It says it's voluntary to do that. But people do it and then they complain about what they've opted into. The problem with this society is not that it's not an opt in culture. In fact, Obamacare was the first law ever passed in this country that was mandatory for everybody without exception. Almost, literally, not almost, every other thing in this country is opt in. People don't recognize that because they don't understand how the country works, which is why you guys, some of you, and I've had a lot of families contact me, and big up to y'all, because the fact that I did that video, because my family opts out of a lot of things, right, in society. And so people will come to me and say, well, how are you guys functioning without this or that? So I want to be clear just on that part.
Okay.
We already live in an opt-in society, but
No, can
wait,
I?
not yet, not yet. No, you can't because it's my 3 minutes. So also when you said, we could come together and we could agree, like we're going to cooperate to build a bridge, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
going to contribute so much. This is generally how societies start, right? They start with people contributing uniformly and kind of having autonomy. But what it degrades into is the society that we have now, where you're still contributing for the common good, but the checks and balances start to get loosey goosey, right? So what you're describing is not much different than what we have now, with the exception that everybody's agreeing to participate in pretty much the same kind of social structure we have now. In this social structure, people don't make a conscious choice to agree. They're simply taught to agree. But I don't know that that would be very different in an anarchist society, because when you have a child in that village, they're going to be raised, right, to be cooperative with the rules and regulations of that village. So it's the same level of brainwashing. And I guess this is why I say anarchy is not possible, not because I don't understand your model, but because I understand human nature. And I understand that these things degrade into what we have now. They start to order themselves that way. Right? What I understand is that some people will always exploit anybody that they can control, and they will have different visions. This is why these sort of independent societies don't work unless they're under the protection of a larger society who's not operating by the same rules, because of the fact that there will always be people that seek to conquer you. And the more ordered you have to become, and the more people that you have to bring in to protect your society, the more ordered you have to become to maintain all those bodies and different personalities. So when I say anarchy is not possible, I'm saying it's possible in principle, but to execute it is an impossibility. That is something that simply cannot be done.
You done?
Yes, it's my
You're
3 minutes.
wrong. You're completely wrong.
Well, prove it.
One
Give
hundred
me an
percent.
example
I'll give you
of
an
where
example.
anarchy has survived.
Anarchy has survived in many tribes that have yet to be yet to be touched by what is known as civilization right now. Many tribes. There are
But I
people
need an example.
like the Maasai tribe in Africa.
But they have a penal system.
They have a penal system. Does that
And
mean that?
a communal system. They're not
Okay,
necessarily anarchists, they're just tribal.
okay. What is this? Is that mutually exclusive? Tribalism in anarchism?
Yes.
No, it's not. No, it
Okay.
isn't. It's
Explain
not.
that.
I have to explain it 100 times. You see, you guys take anarchy and you turn it into what you want it to be, so that you can say there can't be anarchy. Anarchy simply means no rulers. It simply means no authority. Now, you said when I brought in, no, it's my turn. When I brought in you brought up the opt in, you said that the parents do that for the children, but the children didn't opt in. The parents did. So you're telling that doesn't make any sense. When you say, "Oh, it's an opt in," no, it's not. I was not a newborn saying, "Mommy, can you opt me in?" No, that's not how it cracked. My mother got me a social security card and a birth certificate. That was not me opting in, my friend. Now, is there ways I can do that for myself? Yes, there's things I can do to essentially become uh, a sovereign citizen, but it's really novel right now because there's so many people that aren't like that. So no, you don't opt in when newborns don't opt in anything. It's just like when people say my body, my choice when it comes to abortion. Well, it's not your body, it's the child's body inside you. It's not your body. So anyway, when you're talking about things become more ordered and there will always be people that will want to be rulers and want to be masters and conquer everyone. And guess what? I don't care. That's the whole point. I don't care. I will resist. I will fight. And if I have to die fighting, that so be it. That's the point. If I have to die for my beliefs in true freedom, then I will do that. And as long as there are people, as long as there are people that want to rule over people, you will have resistance. You will have wars. You will have murder. You will have riots. People will always rise up against the empire, and it will fall. So either you can have that cycle, right? Or you can have the cycle where people finally come to realize, like, look, if people want to have structure where there's a dictator or bankers that dictate what goes on, what coin you use, and how much taxes come out of your paycheck, you can live like that. But if someone wants to go off and mind their own business, they should also be able to do it. I don't care if someone wants to come and conquer them. That should always be a choice for a human being. See, that's where y'all get it twisted. You think that anarchists want, oh, please don't come get me. No, come get me and see how easy it is for you. How about
Okay,
that?
okay. So I just want to point out a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up the Maasai, but the Maasai do have a ruler. They have a king. So they're not, they're a tribe. Like I said, I wasn't trying to twist anything.
Is king ruler the same thing? What type of king is he?
He rules over the people. He's over the tribe.
Okay. So what does
They
he do
just
as
did
a
it,
ruler?
and I double checked to make sure this hasn't changed, and it's by lineage. They just had a whole tribute to him. So I'm just saying you can't use that as an example. Shad Killings used the Sentinelese, right? The North Sentinelese. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, which is the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But exactly what has happened over to the Great Andamanese, to all of those so-called protective tribes is exactly what I said would happen to any society that tried. What did we see there? We saw the Great Andamanese are extinct. They killed them all. They killed them all, and they fought, and now they're dead. They're gone. That's why I'm saying it's not a sustainable system. We know that the Andaman Islands, there's a human safari there right now. There were 10 tribes on those islands. When we're talking about the islands what is her name? Shad Killings, that he brought up in after you mentioned the Maasai people, he brought up the Centennial Islands. 10 of those tribes that were alive, there are only 4 left.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a human safari on one of the islands. So when I say it's not sustainable, that's what I mean. I mean that we could try that system, but the system would not survive because of how people order themselves and because of outside aggression. It's not a system that can be perpetuated in the same way that the systems we have now, which are organized civilizations, are perpetuated. I'm not saying that I don't prefer your method. I prefer your method. I toyed with the idea when I was younger. That's a you could argue I lightweight considered myself an anarchist in my mind. I didn't
Hmm.
want borders of lands. There's a lot of sentiments about those things that I can appreciate, right? I want to roam freely on the earth because it's earth.
Hmm.
I'm an earthling. I should be able to move about as I like. So I vibe with the concept, but I also recognize it would be near impossible without a level of civil organization to maintain
Uh,
that, because we've watched what has happened to every single tribe that has tried to remain isolated. They are crushed by organized society. There's no
okay.
examples of any that are not.
Okay. It's been 3 minutes, right?
Yeah, but
Um.
I let you talk for way more than 3 minutes, but that's okay. I don't mind. I was done talking anyway.
Okay.
You're
So
so cold.
again, all this that you're saying, all this pedantism is fine, but in reality, people live in anarchy every day. Okay. Now, uh, once you have a system in place that can defend against aggressors, right? Because you can have that in any type of society. You can in a society where the only reason that these societies, these tribes that they lost is because the conquerors had superior firepower, not because they're ideals, not because dictatorship and authoritarianism is somehow more sustainable. No, it's because they had bigger guns. You understand what I'm saying? They had more people. They had they had trickery. They tricked these people. It wasn't like they, you know what I'm saying? They weren't matched gun for gun. You understand what I'm saying? They had muskets. They had firearms. Those are the things that made them dangerous. Not I want to come and be your king. That's not what it was. Because best you believe, if with the technology we have now, if they had the technology we have now, where there was the internet and there was communication and people could cooperate over hundreds of thousands of miles or thousands of miles at the drop of a dime within seconds, they probably could have coordinated a defense. And if they had weapons to match that, it would not have been as easy as you think. So it wasn't because they were anarchists that they were taken over and destroyed. It was because they were smaller. They didn't have they were weaker physically and militarily. You understand what I'm
Okay,
saying? So that's the
so
reason.
so this is what I want to say. I'm not even saying that they were anarchists. I'm just pointing out that they had an individual way that they wanted to live that was invaded. Shad
Okay.
Killings, because he's rooting for you in the chat. He said the North Centennial Islanders survived.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I will give you that. I guess they're surviving. I guess that. I mean, for that matter, I mean the the islanders on the human safari, they're surviving too, but I don't think the quality of life they have is very good.
Not good at
Also, I
all.
want to say when we talk about the advantages that outside parties have, the bigger weapons and all that, that those things become capable because of organized society. That's how they become capable. When people, and we've watched this happen, when we looked at the Congolese people, right? There were resources in the Congo. There was
Mm-hmm.
rubber and things in the Congo. So how much industry is surrounding being able to use rubber, right? So what did they do? They went in, started chopping off people's arms and legs, and started stealing rubber.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's always going to be a sect of people, again, it's not that I don't agree in theory. And I also want to say that I was not making minor corrections to what you were saying, right? I wasn't doing that. Pedant, it, it was not. I was not attempting to be pedantic in my approach, because I think that given the context of this conversation, I have to delineate that a tribe that has rules and regulations and leaders from an anarchist society that literally means no leader. So I wasn't
No, it
being
means no ruler, not leader. That
no ruler. No rule.
no
Okay,
ruler.
no ruler. Yes, no ruler. I stand corrected. But my point is that they do have a ruler. So that's not really being nitpicky, right? That's not being pedantic in nature where I'm just, micro checking things, because that's an essential difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have organized society, which normally people who are brutal, that's what they do. They start to organize
Right.
because they want to conquer. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why I say we don't see societies that choose to isolate in the way you're describing. There's in history we haven't seen them survive because there are always wolves who were organized for
Mm-hmm.
acquisition. That is
Okay.
why the world is currently ordered the way it is now. That's why we don't see all of these independent societies of native peoples and things like that. That's why they've been wiped out. And
Right.
I think that we can at least agree on that, that even if I will acquiesce, because I will, that your society would be a better society, we know that there's billions of people on this planet, and some people are for sure going to organize to reproduce the carnage that we saw sweep the world
Mm-hmm.
in the past
Always.
several hundred years.
Always. I
So
I
then are
agree.
you saying it's a constant power struggle then that's going to be
Oh,
going
of
on?
course. I'm not saying. Listen, like I said, I know, right, that there will always be. Who's it? Walden. I forgot whose name was Walden. I forgot his name, but he was an author, right? That he lived in the late 1800s. I forgot his name, Henry Thoreau, something like that. One of them cats. I'm it misses me, but he lived in a commune, right, with people that were supposed to live in that type of society, and he acknowledged that there will always be somebody there will always be a power struggle. That's fine. That's always constant, but you just have to have a system in place to keep that in check. But the problem, and look, I get it. There will always be power struggles. There will always be someone. Let's say this. Let's say, and I acknowledge this. The United States. Let's say we decentralized the federal government, right? Each state had their powers. Each state had state powers, right? And each state had their own system, their own constitution, their own bill, all that stuff. And let's say all those federal lands that have been commandeered by the government for all these hundreds of years is released, and people can do what they want. You don't think that China or Russia or one of those countries would try to take advantage of that weakened moment? I know this. I know it. It's a
Well,
fact.
but remember that what you're talking about is kind of proving my point, which is that we know that the United States was designed to function like independent countries in a cooperative. That's
Yeah,
why we used to say these United States.
yeah.
But this is the point I was making earlier, which is that when you do that, those systems devolve into what we have now.
No,
That's
well
all,
that
that's my whole point, is that they
no,
always
that but that
devolve.
wasn't necessarily and that
They
that wasn't necessarily anarchy. That was just individual states having their own
No, but my point is
sovereignty.
that that autonomy always devolves.
No,
It always
okay,
devolves, and it devolves for acquisition and maintenance of power and survival. And
okay.
that's why I said it's not a perpetually workable system. That's why I abandoned it back in my 20s, the idea of it, because I recognized that for survival, for protection of lands,
Mm-hmm.
and because you're always going to be on the defense,
Yeah.
that those societies always devolve back into the societies we have now, which is why I promote, since people are going to ultimately keep naturally organizing themselves in this way, that's why I promote that you have the most humane and responsible people, because people will naturally order themselves in hierarchy, whether we want them to or not. Which means
Right.
that somebody then has to have the responsibility of not having a barbarian having complete control over
And
masses of people.
that's where the line between anarchy and authoritarianism is drawn. You understand what I'm saying? See, what you're talking about, that brute force right there. That's what anarchy is against. It's not against leaders coming together with everybody for the common good to defend, right? A cooperation. That's not anarchy. Does not mean that they're against that. It doesn't mean no structure. It doesn't mean no military. It doesn't mean any of that. As a matter of fact, the military at one point had you would get drafted, right? But now you can volunteer in the military. So that even that is like, Okay, that's voluntarism. But when you sign in to become part of the military, you understand. And I was in the military. I was in the army. You have given up certain rights, and you have that knowledge, and you decided to do it anyway.
But a
That's a
military where
choice.
every single soldier could decide that they don't want to show up for the war is not a very good military.
But they do.
That
They do
means
it anyway.
you might say we have,
But
2
what?
million
How does that?
bodies, or
What?
we
I
have
don't understand where that
100,000
question.
bodies. You might
Oh,
say we have 100,000 bodies that have committed to fighting, to defend whatever land.
uh-huh.
But 40,000 of those bodies or 50,000 of those bodies kick rocks.
Do
They
you know how
decide,
many people
yeah,
go
we're not
AWOL?
down with this cause. Then you lose, you will effectively lose half of your military at any given time, because you really have nothing to compel them to stay, because they can decide, I'm over it. I'm just ready to move on,
But
or I'm ready to switch sides, or you know
no,
what I'm saying?
you can compel them because they signed a contract. They voluntarily signed a contract.
But
See,
then
that's the whole
that's
point.
the ordering of society. Do you see where
Okay,
this
well
is
that's
going? That's why I
voluntary though.
said society
That's
starts
why I
to
said
order
voluntarism,
itself.
right? Remember I said voluntarism? That's why I
And
said on a
remember, I
greater
said that
scale.
we live in a society that functions on that. And you used the baby doesn't make the choice. But the thing
They
is
don't.
that
That's not
but I
voluntarism.
understand what I'm saying, though. I agree. However, if the parent, for example, even in your society, parents
Uh,
make choices for their children. If you decide to live somewhere, your child is going to live there and has to follow the same rules that everybody
That's
else does, because you've made the choice for them. In this society of volunteerism,
it's
parents
not
make stupid choices like signing their kids up for social security cards without allowing the child to have a choice.
that's
Because
not
even in your
voluntarism.
society, I mean, it is,
No, it's
because they
not.
don't have to do it. They don't have
When
to
you
do
force
it.
your child in the system. No, I'm not talking about the parent, because guess what? The parent that signed their kid up to be put into the system, their parents signed them into being part of the system, and they were
But in your
indoctrinated.
anarchist
They were
society,
forced to
you're signing your
participate.
kids up.
They were
But in
for,
your
they were
anarchist society, don't you do the same thing? You sign your kids up to be a part of the
no.
system that you've chosen.
Well, guess what? The only legitimate authority one person has over another is a parent over their child. Because what are you going to do? Your child has to be guided, right? They're looking to you for guidance and leadership. That's the only legitimate authority. That's it. Once they become adults, once they demonstrate that they have the knowledge and the wisdom to live on their own, there's nothing you can do for them anymore. You no longer have any say over how they live their lives. The best
Who
that you can do,
determines when they've attained that knowledge and wisdom?
excuse me,
Who gets to determine that
the
they've attained the amount of knowledge and wisdom that they
what
need to
they
have to make that function?
how do we do it now? How do we do it now?
We have laws that say that it's 18 and they don't get a choice after that, before
What
that.
do you mean they don't get a choice? If so,
They don't
what are you
get a
talking?
choice before that
Wait,
legally without a court order. Yeah, they don't have a
wait.
choice without being emancipated. Your parents have
Well,
control over you
parents can
until
get
you're
emancipated.
18.
They say, and that's the problem. That's the problem. If you have to go to a court and say, "Can you please let me be emancipated?" That's the problem. That's part of the
Right.
problem. But
But what you're
again,
saying is, I want to be able to control the
no,
people that I create, but nobody can control me.
that exactly. I'm a
So
grown ass
right.
man. I'm
So
a grown
if
ass
I
man.
decide that until you're
I
25,
have
that you're
demonstrated that. Go ahead.
if you decide until your child is 25 they have not demonstrated the capacity to make choices for themselves, then they don't get to practice true anarchy until you release them. Is
No,
that what you're saying?
no. What I'm saying is, when they get to decide essentially when they're ready to try it on their own. And guess what? If they fail, they can always come back to me as their father. They can say, they don't even have to leave if they don't want to. If they know when they're ready. That's how I guide my children. My children don't go to school. My children are homeschooled. I don't send my children to the indoctrination program. So my children already kind of live as freely as they can. I'm not going to let them run out in the street and get hit by a car. I'm not going to let them, climb a tree and jump from 30 feet in the air. I'm not going to let them hurt other people. I'm not going to
Well,
let them
we
steal
call
from
that
somebody.
idea of paternalism, and people
But I'm their
enact
parent.
paternalism on
I'm their
people.
parent.
I
Of course,
understand.
it's paternalism.
I understand. But what if there's a mentally retarded person? Do they get to practice anarchy, or does the society decide that they're not capable of
No,
practicing it?
it's not. It's
Because
not
they
the
might do
society.
something. but who? Well, it is a society if you
You're
guys
reaching
are
right now. You're
cooperative.
retarded people.
Yeah,
You're reaching.
because retarded people exist. I'm
Well,
not
I know that,
reaching.
but
This
you
is a
are
part of
reaching.
the population.
If okay, they're obviously if they're not functional, because
Who
guess what?
decides that though?
I know functionally
It's
autistic people.
it's
If
it's debatable even in our society
is
which
it
retarded people are. Yes, it is, and I can guarantee that it is
okay?
because I have my grandparents adopted two mentally retarded people.
Okay,
And one of them, in my opinion, is higher functioning than the other. To me, with minimal assistance, I think she could live alone.
okay,
Other people have decided she's not capable of that. Even though she works a job, she can somewhat manage money. She's a little innocent in the mind, but she does do the pieces of general care. So at some point, somebody decided, okay, yeah, no, but she can't totally survive on her own. So she needs to be under the care of another. Why
that's a
doesn't she
problem.
get the autonomy for
She
her to
should.
say, even if
She
it's
should.
dangerous for her?
It's dangerous for
Because
somebody
she
who's
doesn't.
intelligent. It's dangerous for somebody to live that's
Okay.
intelligent. I'd rather have dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery any day. See, that's where you can't get me caught up with that. I'd rather live in danger as a free person than because guess what? Every time I step out the house, I'm in danger. Every time I
Well,
go in
I'm
the
not trying to
bathroom,
get you caught up. I'm just asking real questions because when we talk about anarchy as a concept that can be applied to a planet of 5 billion people, then
it's dangerous.
that
Freedom is
brings to
dangerous.
it brings to question, is that realistic? Like,
Yes, it's
how
very
long would it
realistic.
even last? I would say that it would, if you got a year out of anarchy, I would be surprised
How
because
long does any system last?
out of 5 billion people, people are going to act out.
True
And
anarchy
I
has
just,
not been tried yet.
you know what? You know where we'll definitely be able to agree? I will agree on this, that people choose to be a part of the status quo and the system
And
as it
that's
stands.
voluntary. That's
It is.
voluntary as long as they're doing it of their own free will.
Well, technically they are doing it of their own free will, right? Because at any time people can choose to rise up and not participate, but people maintain the choice to
Mm-hmm.
continue to participate. So then, in that light, is it arguable that people are choosing to reject their own freedom?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as an
Absolutely.
anarchist, you feel it's their choice to be able to do that, right?
Oh, absolutely. But guess what? I have turned people around from that. I know I have known hardcore statists that I have been able to convince that this might, I mean, the way it's going right now ain't working. The way the kings and queens and Kemet and the way Africa, how it was, no structure in human nature is permanent. Listen, the only reason the constitutional government that we have right now is the longest lasting constitution, right? Over 200 years. That's been the longest, and it's only because it's ambiguous, right? It's only because judges get to determine and interpret what the rules are based on precedent and all that other stuff. So, and you can make amendments to it. It's fluid, right? It's fluid, but and that's falling apart. As you can see, they're taking away. They are slowly eroding the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, not the third yet, but the Fourth Amendment. All these amendments, the Bill of Rights is being torn to shreds right now. So once that breaks down, then you'll really see how bad it can get. But yes, I agree. People will always. Some people are going to choose to live in this type of system, and that's okay for them.
Do we really
But
want to say some, or can we agree that it's going to be most people are going to choose that?
oh, most people, and look, most people, and as you well know, only a third of the people rose up in a Revolutionary War, right, against King George, whatever, whoever that guy, right. Now that wasn't our revolution, right? It was their revolution because they didn't want to share power or be second in line. They the founding fathers and all them cats. They wanted the slaves to themselves. They wanted the cotton to themselves. So, but anyway, only a third of those people rose up. And I remember what you were talking about. What prompted me to make that live stream in
Yeah,
regards to what you
we
were
are
talking
so
about.
of one mind because I wanted to talk about what you said in that
Yes,
live stream and how you've
you were so on point,
misconstrued
huh?
I wanted to talk about how you misconstrued on your live stream what my intentions were. You were like, she wants the current power usurped so that her people can have power over you. And
Isn't
that
that what you said? You
no,
said
no. Let's be very clear because I've not spoken to an anarchist, right? So
okay.
this is what I would say. The majority of people, as I was saying, are sheeple, and
Mm-hmm.
they will simply fall behind whatever power is in place. And there
Absolutely.
have to be concessions made for those people. If you don't give them leadership, it will become very ugly because they can't function without it. For whatever mental block, we could try to retrain them, but
Man,
as it stands, it would not work.
I know.
Now, how does that apply to people like you? It doesn't.
No,
Because
no,
for
I'm
me,
gonna tell you how. I'm gonna tell you how.
no, because a person like you can still do what you do. Nobody is worried about that.
No, wait, wait,
But
wait.
what has to be
Wait.
worried about
But
is
let me ask you a
people who
question.
need organization.
All right, can I ask you a question? Let's
Sure.
let's say you do. Let's say you do usurp. Let's say you topple the tyrants, right, of the United States. What would you do with somebody like me?
Let you live your life.
Are you going to tax me?
Tax you for what? But I mean,
Or are
here's
you
the
going to
thing.
are you going
As
to
you
make me get
said,
permits?
this is what I would say. I would say that then we are talking about, because I've talked about this, maybe not here on outside YouTube, but definitely my higher level like patrons and members, you will have heard me say this. And I have said if hypothetically there was ever a revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere on the planet,
Yeah.
everybody would engage that revolution for their own reasons.
Right.
Everybody is not going to be trying to do it for the same reason you are.
Well, okay,
And
because
at
see
the
now that's a little bit more clear because what you were saying was kind of like a false dichotomy to me or a
no,
false dilemma.
let me finish the thought though.
Okay.
I understand that, right? There are going to be racists who are going to engage the revolution. There are going to be people who want to be down with racism. There are people that are going to want to go to communism, anarchy. I understand that.
Right.
And what I said was, we would probably all unify to just get rid of the people we think are the most problematic. But then after that's done, then
Excuse me.
it's going to be about people are going to want to sect off. They're simply going to want to.
Right.
They're going to want to go with the people who are like minded. And then new treaties and things like that and agreements have to be came to. That is just obviously realistic. I
Okay.
mean, there's no avoiding that. So I'm not
Okay.
delusional in that regard. But in the same way, you have to understand that my concern, right, when I'm talking specifically about Black people and a lot of other populations of people, right,
Mm-hmm.
is that many of those people are simply looking for a change of leadership,
Right.
right? That
Yeah.
is not oppressive, that has some humanity. And so those people, they deserve revolutionaries to represent them too. This does
I
not
agree.
infringe on what you're doing, but at the end of the day, yes, everybody would have to, and those who couldn't coexist, I mean, my opinion is they would have to be done with. You know what I mean? They would have to be dealt with.
Yeah.
We could really only survive with people who are willing to coexist. And in those things, if we're talking about the grand scale, then yes, land can be portioned, treaties can be made, agreements can be
Yes.
made, right? And I think that that is very realistic. And I also think it's the only way it will work because everybody, again, is not going to participate in the same cause for the same reasons. Now you are
Yes.
going to make me have to send this to my freaking memberships
Oh,
page.
now look. No, that's fine. Listen, I will become a patron member because I think I'm already a patron member. Anyway, I'm a member of so many patrons. Or yeah. Anyway, so what you're describing right now is voluntarism. You know that, right? What you just
Well,
described.
I've already acknowledged that that's really how it works at the end of the day.
Yes.
We acknowledge that ultimately people do volunteer to even being a part of the most
But
oppressive.
it's not this it's not now it's not okay. So listen. You told me that if you I will help you in a revolution. I damn sure will. Because when I listened to that live stream, what I heard was either you're gonna be in power or either you want power or you want to be subservient. And that's what I had a problem with. That was my point of contention.
But these
Right?
are facts. Even an
No, it's not
anarchist
facts
wants.
because
No,
guess
I'm going
what?
to tell you why.
Some
Wait, listen. Let me
but can
finish
you
it
let
out.
me finish?
Yeah, but
Let,
I want you just to hear this before you say it's not facts.
okay,
As
go
an
ahead.
anarchist, you want power over yourself.
Oh my God. Okay.
I mean, you do. Do you not? That's all you're asking
I
for.
want independent. I don't have to have power over myself. It's me. It's me. It's myself. I don't.
Well, yeah, but
Hey,
the
self. I want
opposite of not having power over yourself is somebody
No, it's
else
not
having
power
power.
over myself. It's independence. It's freedom of. It's freedom.
Well, I mean, you
It's
can use
freedom.
the word independence if you want,
That
but
independence and power
it's
is
the
two
same
different
thing.
things. No, it's not the same thing.
Okay, well, let's use
It there. Okay.
independence then.
Okay. All right. I'll give it to you. It's some form of power in having independence of yourself.
Thank
There's a
you.
form of power in it.
Okay,
Okay.
let's come to
All
an
right.
agreement.
All right. All right. I know how you are. I got to give that to you. Technically, yes, there is power in having independence. Yes, you're right. I'm going to get. I usually don't yield, but I'll yield. I'll yield that.
That's okay. I'm yielding that it's all volunteerism.
Okay. So now, so you told me that. Okay. Let's say I'm going to help you, Irene, and your people. And I might even agree with your system once you're done. I might be like, okay, I'm down with what you got going on. And that's as long as it's voluntary, right? But I'm not going to cause problems for you. I'm not going to come raid your community. I'm not going to come try to kill your people and rape your children. If I don't want to participate in your system, I'll just do my own thing. So you told me you weren't going to extort me with taxes. You said you weren't going to make me have a permit to hunt and fish and all that stuff. You told me that I don't have to get permission to do this. And
Well,
that's
maybe
fine.
on my land you would, but not yours.
Yes, and
And
as
that's
long
fair,
as
right? On
people,
yours, you do whatever you want.
exactly, as long as the people, yes, as long as the people that are down with your system are down with your system, and you're not doing it by force. I know you said force. You said there
I
has to
mean,
be
there
some
will be
force.
force. There will be, here's the thing. If people agree, just like you said this earlier, if people
Yeah,
agree to join the military and then they want to flake, like there's going to be consequences.
yes, because they
If people
volunteered.
chose to live in our system, you either kick rocks or you follow the rules.
Boom, and that's
But
what it is. That's it.
but if you're in the system, yeah, somebody might get yoked because you don't get to hang out here and then break the rules, right?
Right.
So your best bet is to go if you feel you can't abide by
Yes,
the
and then you
rules.
can go somewhere else where you feel the rules are
So
more in
then I
line
would
with
say
your thinking.
you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. That
And
would be my attitude, honestly.
that's what it is. That's
Except
exactly
for
what
you
it
would
is.
have to accept that our system would not be anarchy in the sense that now I will say
Your system
anybody
doesn't
could
have to
leave.
be anarchy.
Yeah, right. But I would say something I would definitely change
Mhm.
with regard to governmental leadership is that people should have the freedom to exit stage left if they are no longer happy. Right now we are literally prisoners to our
Exactly.
respective countries. And I that's why I
Boom.
said I went down the anarchy back. I told you I that's why I said we're not going to be that far off because I used to have the mindset you did, but I had to flesh it out for the variables of this 5 billion person
Oh yeah,
population.
I know the
So
variables
that's
well.
do you feel what I'm saying? So that's why I said we're
Absolutely.
not as adverse as you may think. I just recognize there would be sects of people, but the only way your sex would survive would be to cooperate with people who have a similar mindset to me.
I agree.
Because our mindset would align with your desires. Otherwise, the survival is just not going to happen,
Yeah,
likely
I
for
agree.
either of us, right?
No, I agree. No, I agree. And let's say I did want to go off on my own land, I can still have a relationship with multiple system and communities. Like, look, if y'all need me, listen, it's in your best interest to fight off these invaders. I'll come help you. And likewise, like there will always be that cooperation that we could have. That I mean, that's just, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be forced on the people, right? Because and that's my whole thing. Give people the option. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And that's why I decided that I was going to try to come up with a political party known as the opt out party, right? It'd be a party about give people the option to opt out, right? If they want to opt out, they don't want to be part of the system. Guess what? Release them. You know, there's so much land, open land right now in the United States. Let them go off and do their own thing. But of course, there has to be some type of transition. There, you got to get reparations, right?
And I think there has to be fairness in distribution too, because all land's not
Absolutely.
good land, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
having
Yeah.
land that is actually going to be valuable for what
Yes.
people need to survive, I think that is essential too. We actually could get much deeper into this conversation, probably not on a public platform, because I think these are, because somebody was saying, like, what about money? I think these are conversations that really need to be had because for even just for people to be cognitively liberated enough to understand the other kinds of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do the Black conservative mixtape, but hopefully we can revisit this, but I wouldn't want to revisit it. We'd have to revisit it like privately, like,
Oh yeah,
in a private space, like maybe a members page or Patreon, yours, mine, like what, I don't care, but we definitely could not have that kind of conversation.
yeah.
Just, I'm sorry, y'all, unfortunately for you
I
guys.
agree.
We
No,
won't be
yeah, no.
getting
And look, I agree. And somebody asked about capitalism. Capitalism is great. I love it. Well, I love free market capitalism. Let's get that straight, because there's
there.
different
Ooh,
forms
see,
of capitalism.
I'm more socialist, not communist, because to me, communism is capitalism with a socialist twist,
So
right?
you believe in regulation, some regulation.
I I I believe I genuinely believe, you guys, that everybody is good at something and they gravitate toward it. And I would like to ultimately bring people to a place where they would willingly work in capacities that they feel passionate about
Mm-hmm.
for the common good, right? So if you love to paint, paint your heart away, but you have to be willing to let people benefit from that art by painting for them. Like, I will paint you a picture, right? You could spend all
Right.
your days painting, and then people could come and they could acquire those things, right? And I would want to open up that kind of freedom and detach us from a monetary system, in the sense I would want to detach us from vehicles for barter, unless we are I really just want to detach us from vehicles for barter. We could really get into if that's possible, because the argument is always, well, what if somebody doesn't have what you want to trade? But that is only a concern on a small scale, from individual to individual.
So
On
you
a
want to get rid of
national
fiat.
scale, on
You
a
want
national scale, it's more realistic, right? Like, you want so many bushels of corn, I want so many, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, Potatoes. But
Right.
on a huge scale, that makes more sense, because one person can only cultivate so much food, right?
Right.
Or mine so much things. But a nation of people can cultivate a variety of things, not just to sustain themselves, but to bring things in that would be exotic things, right? That they normally would not be able to cultivate themselves. So I
Yeah.
think that the barter system works on a large scale, but it does not work on an individual scale. But that's like a whole nother conversation. Do you want to do this again?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, because I think we could actually really take this a lot of places that I think people don't really consider when they really haven't thought about, like, I'm really angry, I really want something to change, but then people don't think about how things order themselves afterward, or how
Right.
you're going to coexist. Like I said, there's 5 billion people on the planet. So
Yeah. They're saying it's closer to. I don't know what it is. They're saying it's 5 billion, but how do we really know? That's a whole
well,
nother
we
story.
don't know. Like,
That's
and
a
I'm
whole
always
nother
a fan
story.
of, we don't know what we don't know, y'all. We really
Yeah,
don't.
man. These people be
We
lying.
really don't. We really,
They,
I agree with you. We really don't.
and
We
they tell
really
us
don't.
they tell us we're overcrowding this planet. I wholly disagree.
We're definitely not overcrowded. I know that that's
We're
not true.
overcrowding the cities. They're
Yes.
cramming us in cities, but then
But
we are
most of
not
our
nowhere.
planet is empty. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have not filled up the earth. That is for
The,
a fact.
and the
Not
United
even
States
close.
alone is 95% rural open space. 95%. We're so crammed. So they lie. They're liars. Oh, they're such liars. I hate.
I
I think they're liars.
definitely agree with that. We definitely have to have this conversation again. I knew that this, did you think this was going to go well?
No, I did, and you know
Okay.
what? It turned out we agreed. It turned out we agreed.
I knew we were going to end up
Essentially,
there.
we essentially agree, and that's
I
why
knew
I
we were going
told
to end
you.
up there.
That's why I told you the other day when we were on that on the other live stream. I said I am an anarchist, but I believe in a voluntary system overall. And so that's where we're at with this thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand not everybody can be an anarchist. No, not everybody can be that. Because some people are so meek, and so some people have to be subservient, right? You need some people have to be the workers, and some people have. You're right. You're absolutely right. But there are those few people who don't want either of those things. They just want to mind their own business. And so this was great. This was a great conversation.
I definitely agree. I think it was very productive, but I think it could be taken so much further, for sure.
It needs to be taken so much further. It needs to be, because we're on the same plane. I think we're on the same plane. We might not want the same things in the complete at the end of the day, but we respect each other's ideals, and
I
we do
think we
want the
could
same thing.
coexist. And I think that would
We can
be the
coexist
ultimate key is who can coexist alongside each other.
without causing problems, and can we come together as allies and and fight off common enemies? I think we can. I think it's
Yeah,
crucial.
I think that's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Um, is being able to make strong allies and your purposes don't crush what the other person's trying to do. But for sure, we're definitely going to continue this conversation, you guys. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I was excited for this conversation because I've
Oh,
literally never had it before, and it's not
well,
often.
one more thing though. One more thing.
Yeah.
Black people need allies. We need black people in America.
Oh my
We
gosh, preach about it.
we need we before we get off of here, we need allies outside of these borders. Point blank and period. We don't have them, and that's the key. That's the key right there. But we have the internet. We have so many things that we didn't have when we were conquered in the first place, and that's what I was getting to. We have so many ways to communicate. We have so many ways to organize at the drop of a dime, and that's why
But
this
when he
will.
says allies, do you specifically just mean other Black people?
No, I don't mean just other black people.
I don't either. And I
I don't
think
mean
that's something people are going to be resistant to.
absolutely.
I just want you guys to remember this. The longest and the most successful slave revolt that was the only one that really ended with Black people getting significant parts of land in the United States was when Black people, slave ancestors, collaborated with the natives in war.
Yep,
So we do need allies. And
we
so
need
that's
allies
going
for
to
sure.
require some opening of the mind for some of you guys. But you guys just don't understand the enemy of mine enemy is my friend. There's a reason that's a that's a saying.
Yes, that's a crucial exactly, and we do need allies, and they're not going to always look like us. But and we're going to have to vet. That's the most important thing. That was the problem with the Black Panthers.
No, no,
Irene, you were on point. Okay,
let's
okay,
not
all
go.
right, all right, all right.
We're gonna I really do want to have that conversation too, because I've had this conversation with my upper level members and patrons, but I would love to have this conversation with you because there is a process and there's a limit to the emulsion that you're doing, right? There's a limit to that. So there's some hard stops there. I think it'll be hard for people to process, but we could get into it more. But yeah, we definitely have to continue this conversation because if we keep going, we're really going to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, it's so much.
It really is so much.
That's why I do my live streams when I ruck, and it's like 2.5 hours because it's so much. It's so much information. Yeah, you're right. We need to.
Honestly, I would keep going. If I didn't have the mixtape scheduled, I would totally keep going.
No, it's all good.
Um,
We can say
but
we can
so
say
I wish we would have started earlier. But y'all, we were really supposed to start earlier, but then I was late, and then he was late, and then so
yeah,
we both were getting caught up in life. So now
yeah.
we know we really do have to block off time
Heck
so that
yeah,
we can not cut the conversation. But this was a good start. And I
absolutely.
think it's whet people's palate and got them a little hungry to hear the conversation furthered. And so I'm very happy about that.
Yes, yes. And I need to email you about the school with Cuba.
Okay.
I'm very interested in that. And yeah, I mean, how many black people do you hear talking about anarchy and voluntarism, like specifically?
I don't know of any.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's yeah. So okay, all right, we'll get it popping, man. I'm very
okay.
excited. I'm very excited. We're gonna make something happen.
Thank you so much for coming through. And did I tell you congratulations last time? Y'all, he is the sweetest little baby that was crying in the background. It made my womb hurt, but don't tell Mister I said that. I was like, I want a baby.
Yes,
Anyway, but congratulations.
thank you. That's baby number 6 right there. So
Oh, that's a blessing. Yeah,
yes, it
definitely.
is. I'm making
Congratulations.
my own village right now. Getting ready to get my land and be left alone. No, I'm kidding.
All right, you guys, we will talk to you later. I'll make sure that I'm sure we both will post the next time we have this conversation when we continue it. But I hope you guys enjoyed it and definitely heard a few things that you could never heard before.
All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.